The scariest thing in Jaws isn't the shark. It's the cut. In 1975, Spielberg was trying to make a monster movie, but there was one small problem. His monster didn't work. Like, literally. The animatronic kept sinking, jamming, breaking down mid-shot, and Spielberg slowly felt his monster movie slipping away.
I'm suffering enough.
All right, we're suffering with you.
I'm suffering.
But in the editing room, something special was happening. One editor looked at what they had and started making cuts that hid the shark almost entirely. You'd hear the music, you'd see the water churn, you'd watch the characters' faces recoil in fear, but the monster stayed in the shadows. This is the story of how a broken shark and one woman created real, bone-chilling fear. In the summer of 1974, Steven Spielberg was 26 years old and in way over his head. He had just made Sugarland Express, his first real feature, and suddenly he was handed this massive ocean thriller based on a hit novel. And it was going to be his chance to prove he could play in the big leagues. Spielberg didn't want to make a B movie. He wanted to make something classy and suspenseful. Think Hitchcock on Water, a true American classic. In his head, it was perfect. A mechanical shark rising from the deep sea like a monster out of a legend. It would be terrifying, operatic, and beautiful. So they built it, a 25-foot animatronic shark full of hydraulics and steel cables. They named it Bruce after Spielberg's lawyer. Each Bruce cost $500,000 and the studio made multiple, which took a big chunk out of the film's $9 million budget. But that didn't matter because Bruce was going to be a star. Except, Bruce didn't work.
So much went wrong that I honestly believed that my new career in movies was going to sink to the bottom of the sea.
What you see in the finished picture is practically every frame of usable footage of the shark.
The minute they got him into the saltwater, he started to fall apart. The jaws wouldn't open, the fins locked up, the skin would swell or split under pressure, and sometimes Bruce would just straight up sink, turning entire shoot days into a recovery mission. Suddenly, this sleek, terrifying beast Spielberg had imagined looked like a giant rubber toy in a kiddie pool. Day by day, his perfect monster movie started slipping from his grasp. And once the movie was all shot, he was left with scenes that didn't cut together, shots with no shark in them, and a production that was days behind and bleeding money. Later on in an interview, Spielberg would say, "The less you see, the more you're afraid." But back then, he wasn't trying to be poetic. He was trying not to lose control. Verna Fields was 54 years old when she cut Jaws. Born in St. Louis and raised in the Midwest, she was a mother, a widow, and to Spielberg's luck, an editing veteran. But she hadn't always been. Verna started late. Her husband, Sam Fields, was a film editor. When he died suddenly of a heart attack at just 38, Verna, still grieving, took over his job to support her family. She never went to film school. She learned by doing. Quiet, meticulous work on documentaries and training videos. She spent years splicing film in windowless rooms, quietly helping shape other people's stories. But behind the scenes, she was building a reputation. By the 70s, she'd worked on American Graffiti, she was teaching at USC, and she was mentoring the next generation of filmmakers. One of them happened to be a 26-year-old with big ideas, but an even bigger shark problem. When Spielberg landed Jaws, he specifically requested for Verna. She wasn't just cutting the film, she was helping hold it together. So every day, Verna sat at her Moviola, threading film by hand, watching hours of ruined shark shots, trying to find a movie in the murky mess. Working like a musician, tapping her ring on the table to find the perfect rhythm, she realized something. The monster was scarier when it wasn't there. Let the water bubble. Let the fins skim past. Let the music raise your blood pressure. Don't show the horror. Let the audience imagine it. But here's the thing, that wasn't the plan. The original script had the shark all over the place, with big dramatic reveals and full-on attack shots. Spielberg didn't set out to hide his monster. He wanted to show it off as much as possible. And so did the studio. Bruce was really expensive. To Spielberg's credit, he had already started finding clever ways to hide Bruce during reshoots. But it was Verna who took that instinct and wove it through the whole film. And that choice didn't just fix the movie, it elevated it. Like Hitchcock had before, Verna rewrote the language of suspense. She built a monster scarier than anything theaters had ever seen. Not because you saw it, but because you didn't. And as the movie started to take shape, things started to shift. Spielberg found his rhythm, the studios backed off, and Verna, most importantly, kept editing. By the time they showed test audiences, Jaws actually dropped. Many would later call Verna the real hero of Jaws, including Spielberg himself, who never stopped giving her credit. Because without her, it's just a broken shark. But with the magic of practical effects and clever editing, it's one of the greatest thrillers ever made. Verna Fields didn't just save Jaws, she made Jaws. Because the shark never worked, but she did. Frame by frame, Verna rebuilt the entire rhythm of the film, cutting for tension, hiding flaws, and letting the audience's imagination do the heavy lifting. And it worked. Jaws hit theaters in 1975 and instantly became a cultural phenomenon. It wasn't just a hit, it was the hit, the first modern blockbuster. And the way it was cut, that became the blueprint. Later that year, Verna won the Oscar for Best Editing, becoming the third woman ever to win in that category. Spielberg gave her credit in every interview, and Universal even promoted her to Vice President of Future Productions, the first editor ever to be promoted to that role at Universal. Verna spent years in the shadows, quietly making other people's movies. But Jaws wasn't just her masterpiece, it was her moment. The scariest thing in Jaws wasn't the shark, it was the cut and the woman behind it.
First, I want to say that giving me this, I consider a great tribute to our wonderful, fabulous, talented director, Steven Spielberg. I would also like to say that being here at this time, after all these years, I really have a long list of thank yous, which I won't bother you with. But I hope everybody on that list, primarily my two sons, I say thank you.